All right, all right, all right. It's CEO Synergy Mondays, and I am live. Let me make sure I'm going live inside of Instagram. You guys can catch me live tonight on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Hopefully, my Synergy Sales Summit group should be catching me live tonight, and also YouTube. So tonight it's all about obedience, purpose, and execution. I'm super excited because it's not just gonna be me alone. P.S. I am in my pajamas. I put on my little pajama shirt for you guys, my little island pajama shirt for tonight, because that's the type of mood I'm in. And I'm super excited about my guest tonight. So, as you guys are popping in, say hi because your hi does matter. Let me know where you're coming in live from today so I can shout you out and I could just love on you because I miss you. And we're going to have to spend some time together this week. We got today, we're going live for CEO Synergy Monday. It's going to be Sundays when I get a chance to give up my Sundays with a special guest. I can't wait to bring her on for you guys. And then, all right, coming from LA. All right, Zena, I see you. And then tomorrow, starting from tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you're gonna catch us live for CEO Synergy. Synergy Sales Summit. So make sure you have your ticket to join me there. I'm gonna dive a little bit into some of the topics that we're gonna talk about for the 3-day summit. But all of that, I'm gonna bring some fun stuff on for you, and then we'll see. Um, all the goodies that's going to be coming up for the rest of the week. So I don't want to tell you all the juiciness, but I am going to give you some goodies tonight. So before we get started, let me welcome you guys to our CEO Synergy Mondays. These are conversations that I have with different amazing CEOs. Today, my guest today is a very, very dear old sister friend of mine, Minister Dawn E. Stevens. She don't like it when I call her that, but that's what she be. Uh,
Hello,
uh, so I'm bringing her in tonight. Literally, this is my wonder twin. We how long ago did we meet, Dawn? It's shoots. It feels like about 8 or 9 years ago. Is
Yeah,
that
probably
what
about
you
eight.
got?
Yes, 7 or 8. Yep,
Mm-hmm.
yep, about 7, 8 years.
Yeah, just about. Well, it's got to be a little bit more than seven because the book was released. What helps me is when I turned 40 was when I released the book, Amazing Gift, right?
Okay.
So that backtracks me 7 years. And I know it was before
Yep,
we
it was
released the
before
book.
that.
So that's how I got about 8 or 9. All right. I see my LA squad is here. Hey, Dawn. So
Hey,
good to see
LA.
you.
Good to see.
Yes. If you're part of my inner tribe, you know who Dawn is. If you're part of my inner tribe, you know who Dawn is. And if you do know who Dawn is, and I want you to tell me how you know Dawn, put it in the chat. We gonna shout her out. How you know Dawn? Hey, Pastor Keisha, I
Hey,
see her
Pastor
passing
Keisha.
through. Dawn Squad is coming through. I appreciate you. But just dating us back to our how we met initially. We met initially as ambassadors, right? Do
Yeah.
you remember when we met, Dawn? What made you decide to kind of to tag team it with your crazy girl?
Again, so someone just posted in the past, she's a beast at support. So essentially, that's
Period.
that's what made me tag team with Dr. Allie. I believe my first remembrance, I'm sure we were in a lot of group chats as ambassadors before we actually physically met in person. But what the thing that always comes to mind was when we went down thinking that we were going to support in registration at the event. So we're thinking, okay, of course, you're always on assignment. When you surrender yourself, you're always on assignment. So Dr. Ali was there on assignment, I was there on assignment. So we were like, okay, y'all need help. How can we help? Little did we know that how we were going to be helping was leading teams. And so that's how we met. And sometimes when you go a place and you find somebody that serves and gives their all, and they're kind of like the yin to your yang. We've been inseparable ever since. I think that was the only event I think that we weren't roommates or connected in some way. That was our very first in-person interaction. But other than that, we were vibing even over our calls when we would have calls at night. about the ambassadorship. So yeah, I think that's what I can I remember. Dr. Ali was a beast. And then let me tell y'all a secret. Don't tell nobody, okay?
She
So
out here telling secrets.
yeah, I'm gonna tell y'all a secret. So Dr. Ali is my get right because I want to say stuff and it's not always appropriate how I want to say it. And so Dr. Ali is like my communication. She'll reel me back in and say, well, it probably would sound better if you say it like this. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because I just want to say you fired. Okay. That's
I
my
said,
truth.
well, maybe our time together has been completed, and it's time for us to transition on to our next levels, possibly in different lanes.
Hey, Diaji.
She's
Yeah.
like, you're fired. And I'm like, oh
Not you
my
fired. Not this your last day. Go to your room and take your stuff. I can't say that.
gosh.
Not appropriate. Okay, I guess.
So what I absolutely loved about Dawn, what connected me about Dawn is that we had the same level of tenacity when it came to service. We didn't take it lightly, right? And what what annoyed us, and real talk, is when we're providing service to leaders or to attendees or wherever we was at that moment, and we're working alongside people who weren't pulling their weight. Right? Have you ever had a chance to serve and you're out there doing all the things and you look at the other person, they napping? Like a lot. So it ended up being
Yeah.
um
You see this itch right
look,
here?
she's
Mm.
itching already.
Whew.
It ended up being that once we got into service, and this is a lot about the conversation we're going to talk about is being in service, is leaders serving leaders, and how the synergy effect of knowing that we can't do it all by ourselves, but we need other people that can be the yin to our yang, that we can balance off some of this energy, especially when you're around others that can't. Sips tea, right? Sips tea. And the one thing we know, the one thing we had in common, that we know that we were obedient, right? We
Absolutely.
were obedient to our calling. Now, what does this obedience look like? It looks varies for everyone. And I'm going to share a little bit about mine. Dawn will share a little bit about her experience. And of course, we're going to learn more about it when we talk about it tomorrow in our Synergy Sales Summit. So that's our day one, is all about offers, obedience, and opportunities. Tonight, we're just going to focus on obedience. And what comes out to me was definitely going to these locations, not knowing why I was going, but I kept hearing a calling that I was supposed to go. Right. So most of you guys know I'm in like academia. I wasn't big on this whole coaching thing. I wasn't big on this consulting world, personal development, business development. That was not my thing about 8-9 years ago. But I knew there was something in this room for me to develop, and I literally thought I was just going to help. I thought I was going to help. And I know if I'm going to help, I'm going to help 100%. And that's just who I am. And then when I got inside, I began to hear other whispers in my ear, letting me know that I wasn't just going to help, but I was actually going to lead in this aspect. How did obedience show up for you in this space, Dawn?
Well, I kind of like you. I knew that I was called to go. I had asked everybody under the sun to go with me, all my friends, and they weren't able for whatever the reason was. But I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to go because I felt this huge push to go. And one of the things I remember on the call is one of the lead support people saying, we just need help. Right. And so I said, oh, help. Okay. I have a gift of helps. I have a gift of administration. Maybe they can use something. Right. Again, I'm thinking registration table. Okay. Certainly I'm gonna wave a flag. I'm gonna do a registration table. I'll help in those capacities. So when I arrived and they needed other things, this is one of the other reasons. I know when Dr. Ali said something about being obedient, but when you show up to a place, it's not just enough to show up, right? You have to show up in the fullness of who you truly are so that people can see what it is, gifts that you bring, so they know how to make your room if you're biblical, your gift will make room. So my gift made room for me. But I put it on display. And I mean, I started in one spot and quickly found myself backstage, right? So I'm like, well, how did I go from I'm gonna do the registration table and sign people up to now I'm working directly for the person who's hosting the entire event and her team. And so all in the matter of less than 24 hours, right? I mean, it wasn't, I don't even think it was 10 hours, right?
I, I,
You may not even be 5 hours. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't, again, I still laugh and say it was just God, because there's no other way to explain it, right? I mean, there is, I think when you are willing to give of yourself in ways and be obedient to God, He will open up doors, right? There's no way. I mean, we didn't fill out an application for it, right? We didn't apply for it. We didn't, or let me get to know so and such and such. We didn't do any politicking for it. We didn't, none of that. We just came as ourselves with a genuine desire to give back to someone who had given to us, and the door was open, right? And to use more of our gifts, right? I mean, essentially, we didn't have a desire for anything other than to allow our gift to be used.
So as we're listening out there, how is it showing up for you in your life right now, where obedience is knocking at your door for you to show up in your gift, and not necessarily just show up physically, but all the way be present to what you're being called for? And then what are you dealing with any challenges that are coming up as that point? So I'm going to talk about a challenge that showed up for me. Is here I am, both of us, we just come into support, right? And being elevated in the immediate space, because as a leader, no matter where you are, your gifts will shine through, and you'll be called to lead in all aspects, right? So for some of us who are running away from leadership, that was me. uh, us. That was we, because we were just totally fine with being cool at the back and chilling. Understand that leaders still lead from the front, side, under, inside out. And when you're called to be a leader, when you're called to shine in a space or show up in a space and help others in your gift, even though we didn't show up for that, God will make sure to place you in places. But are you listening to that request, and are you adhering to it, or are you just going to continue to run? And I know I'm talking to someone out there, because I spent a lot of time running. In fact, sometimes I'm still running. Like this summit I'm supposed to be doing the next 3 days, it's not me. I don't want to do a sales summit. It's me being obedient to. I want to sleep. You see this little pajama right here? If I can sleep all day, get up, eat, and go make money and come back into sleep, I'm cool with that. That's done. Like I'd be like, okay, I'm going to go take a nap, and that's the space where I'm at. However, when I know I'm being called to a bigger space, and I know that by pulling these people together, by adding the synergy of dynamic experts out there that can help people in the areas that I know that they're showing me they have blocks in, which is their business, which is bringing money in, which is creating wealth, then it's my responsibility to use my platform. And my platform can be one, 100, 1,000, a million. It doesn't matter the amount of who it is to be. For me, my responsibility is to make sure if I know who the solutions are and I know who the people that have the problems are, it's up to me to be obedient in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Which now leads us into, and Dawn, you can speak about a quick challenge that may have showed up for you in obedience, so that they could know that they are not alone.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. So I tag team with Dr. Ali on. I absolutely do not like leading people. Okay, because 100% a fact. I mean, hands down, it's not my preference. Right, my preference is get somebody else to do it. I'll watch. I'll support. I'll tell you everything that I know, but I do not want any parts of the doing. Okay. Um, and for me, even in this experience, availing myself to be used, I I kind of tapped into why I don't like to lead, because leaders have a lot of level of responsibility, right? You are called to do well, I won't say all leaders. I'm just going to say me. When I think of leadership and how the Lord requires me to lead, that means I have to lead sacrificially. I have to lead in ways that sometimes mean I have to go above and beyond. I have to sometimes deny myself of things that I would prefer. Right. So I would prefer to be on the beach with a nice boo thing, chilling with my feet up, talking about what I'm going to eat. But no.
Oh, I visualize I'm there.
Okay.
Next to you with my boo.
Listen, with your boo.
Not with her,
Okay.
with
Okay.
my own boo thing.
Um, the Lord says, no, I have need of you for this.
Yeah.
And so I need you to commit all of your time. I need you to devote yourself with this. I need you to turn down your plate at times. So sometimes I'm fasting. Sometimes I'm not able to go where everybody can go when everybody can go. Um, and one of the things is I remember even walking in this current season of obedience that I'm in, I remember getting the job offer of my life, right? It was going to allow me to travel the world. And the Lord said, no. And I was like, pardon me. Excuse me. Did you say no? I'm supposed to be in Dubai. I want to be in Barcelona. I want to be in Turks and Caicos. Like, I mean, I can do this for a living. I can do this. And the Lord said, no. And so, unfortunately, our obedience sometimes, now I understand. Then I didn't understand, right? But now I have a better understanding of why it was no then. But again, sometimes you have to yield to those things that you don't like to do. And unfortunately, I can't. I must admit, I am good at it, right? And when every time somebody says, "I want you to write down the things that people come to you the most for," I'm always like, I don't want to write that down, right? Because people come to me mostly for the things that I don't prefer. Contact me to lead teams. They contact me for systems. They contact me for strategies. They contact me for things that mean I have to live a transparent lifestyle. And sometimes you just have to be transparent enough to say, okay, I'm flawed in this way so that other people can get over a hurdle. And that's not always fun.
Nope. And when they're calling you to lead in certain spaces, and when we say we don't want to, the key is our physical self, right?
Right.
The our carnal self, our self that prefers other things, but us abiding by the spiritual being within ourselves, and now being at a seasoned space.
Yep.
So this isn't where we were before, and we still deal with the concept, the conversations. This is why we decided to jump on live, because we are literally support for each other when we're going back and forth with the questioning of, okay, this don't feel like the things we want to be feeling to be doing at times, but we know, like we know. So one of the things that helps us, and it is our synergy of each other, of knowing that we can call on each other, we can lead, we can connect back into, tap back into what we're supposed to be doing, and get back into our purpose. So this takes that conversation. Yeah, the rebellious human is, it's there. It's real there. And I always, for my squad, for my tribe, yes, you guys see the invitation to Synergy Sales Summit. Please make sure you're there, because we're gonna dive deeper tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. But the key is, and it's not supposed to be 9 p.m. It's supposed to be 7 p.m. So my bad. I did that when I was doing this. The key with that is, in that space, what helps me is tapping back into my purpose. What helps me is me asking myself, okay, Allie, um, what do I really, what is God asking me to truly show up as? And am I really saying I don't like it because I don't like it, or am I saying it because of fear? And fear tends to show up at times when you're being called into areas that are new, that are unexpected, that are stretching. Like Dawn says, that sometimes are more in the front than what you may think you may desire. But it's sometimes that space where fear may show up that may make me walk against that path of my purpose. So people always ask about purpose. How do you get clear on what is your purpose? Like, I hate that question, but it sounds so cliche. But when realigning yourself back to your purpose, what helps you? How about that?
For me,
Yeah.
oh, okay. So, two things before we get into that. One of the things is important is sharing your purpose with someone else that you trust, right? And I think one of the reasons why we can have synergy is because you understand 100% what my purpose is,
Mm.
right? And so I can call Dr. Allie at any time and I'll come up with it. Oh, pardon me, but my brain works like a popcorn machine. So I can have 100 ideas go through my head in an hour, right? And so I'm like, "Ooh, I got this new idea," and she's like, "That's not a new idea." That is an idea that you've already had before that is just now resurfacing. Now, is that really what you're supposed to be doing? And how does that time? And so something's like, oh man, I thought, again, because again, we're the rebellious humans, so we come up with all of these ideas to preoccupy us from what our real purpose is, especially if we have fear around that thing,
Ooh, ooh, say that. Say
right?
that. Pause on that. We come up with all these other sexy things to do to walk away from the purpose because it just feels even more fun and even more out of what we shouldn't be doing, but just to avoid that.
Yeah, and sometimes we have been told that we have to really like our purpose, right? We've been told the story that if it's what you're purposed to do, you will enjoy it, right? Dr. Joy, stop it. You know, we have been told if it's your purpose, then you will enjoy it. And that's not necessarily 100% true, because sometimes it's in the journey getting to our purpose, right? That we learn all of these lessons that will really be a blessing for other people, right? And if we think about where we started on the day that we met, but even though we were walking in our purpose way before the day we met, even throughout those journeys, we've learned so many things along the way that we've been able to use to help other people, even though like I was ready to throw somebody off of a balcony at a retreat several times.
Many times.
Okay, there's so many times.
Many times.
However, what I can tell you is I know that 100% for sure that that was the purpose that what is a lie?
Oh no, that Detroit comes out. That Michigan comes out real quick. Y'all thought Brooklyn is hard? Wait till you get to the other side.
So but understanding that that's my purpose, right? And I think that only comes from a true deep rooted connection and desire to please the Holy Spirit, right? Or what I call, I'm a Jesus girl, so I believe in Jesus, and he's my Lord and Savior. And so your connection with God is the most important thing, because anything that you do outside of what he's requiring is not gonna, it's not gonna last,
And
right?
it's
And
going to end in confusion. It's going
yeah,
to end in confusion. It's going to
yeah,
end in turmoil. It's going to end with you spinning around in circles.
yeah,
Like one of the things Dawn says is when people come to me initially to work with me and or just to have conversations with me, and somehow we get into their purpose or I have that divine connection that I
yeah,
hear it within them. I hold them to it. I hold it. Like I'm there. Like once you tell me, it's like, oh, okay, how can I support you? So when I see you diverting and doing all the fun things or things that you think is fun, the things that you're keeping you busy and running away from things, because I see that a lot. And I'm
yeah,
like, okay, all right, but that's not what you told me, and that's not what we heard. So I have there been a shift in this, or have there been a shift because that happens at times, or are you running
yeah.
and
Or are
hiding?
you or are you making something that that was once painful now your purpose? Right? Like, I mean, sometimes we do that, right? It's like, oh, it was a pain for me. Now I'm going to be purpose to conquer it. How about you just conquer it in your life and find out what your true purpose is, what you were originally assigned to do? Um, and it could be various different things. Sometimes it could be permission. Like sometimes people give you permission to do a thing, right? So then you run off on that trail and now you're doing this thing because you have permission, right? But it's still not your purpose. It's only what you are allowing yourself to believe that you are able to do because someone put a cap on your potential,
Oop, oop.
right? And so if you go, I mean, it really does depend on what you come into agreement with, right? You can come into agreement with what your true authentic purpose is, and you can do that even when you don't feel like it, right? Even when you come up against opposition, even when you don't understand why you've been chosen. um, but it's important that you yield to that, right? Because that's where the covering is, that's where all of your blessings will be. And if you're like me, like I ran from my purpose for decades. I'm not gonna say years because it was decades, right? I mean, at one point when I started my nonprofit, I can remember I was doing all of these other things, and I'm like, yes, I've done it, right? I have accomplished the goal. And as soon as I sat with that in my spirit, I heard the Lord say, I'm glad that you accomplished that, but that is not what I asked you to do. Because I had a call to ministry, but because ministry was not acceptable to some, I wanted to dress it up as a nonprofit. because that was more acceptable. That was more palatable for other people, right? It wasn't my purpose. I mean, it's a part of my purpose, but it wasn't the purpose in its entirety, right?
So here's the thing, and this is where you and I, because we're yin and yang, and there's some things we're fully aligned in, and some things we are
Mhm.
vastly different in. And this may align. What I began to learn as in my old age, in my sweet young age, is how can I create align my passion and my purpose so it doesn't feel like something I don't like, right? So owning up to what the things I do like,
That's it. Huh?
understanding what is my purpose, and then seeing how I can marry the two. So that's me. I'm constantly trying to create both. Like, if I got a ministry, can I ministry on the beach? If I if I gotta help people with their businesses and help them to their next level, can we do it in the pool? Like, it
But
just
I think what you're saying is that you're accepting the call though, right?
yes,
And
yes.
then you're making it work, right? It isn't the part of the problem is the not accepting. When you hear
Hmm.
what it is, some people turn a deaf ear or sexy it up. Where you're saying is, okay, I call the ministry. My ministry just doesn't look like everybody else. I'm going to do it on the beach. I'm going to do it here. I'm going to do it there, which is key. That's a pivotal part of obeying, right? Because what you're not doing is you're not running from it. You're not saying, okay, well, yeah, that's my calling, but I'm going to do this instead.
And then there's also the ones who have their calling and their purpose. And guys, reminder, Synergy Sales Summit is tomorrow. This is our prep call. We're just tapping into some of the things. Please make sure you grab your ticket, synergysalessummit.com, so you can get some more of this. We'll be going live from Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 7 p.m. And we're going to be diving into more strategies and systems. This is just us giving you a little bit of the foreplay of, of the conversation. One of the things that was for me is the saying yes first, right?
Mhm.
And that's what I speak a lot about to my clients is why do we lead so much with no? Because of our used to being no, 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 fearful, not trusting, scared of saying yes. But leading first with yes, and then praying and asking God, asking within yourself, seeing how can I do this within alignment with who I am evolving to be, and really tapping into that space. Because another thing I see are people who are walking in their purpose, but they're disgruntled, like they mad. They at
Yeah.
the pulpit and they mad. They helping people out and they got attitudes. So
Yes.
I'm like, well, don't do it if you're gonna do it with the attitude. Like keep, you got to figure out how to create some sort of peace and joy within this.
Or yes,
Otherwise, you
or
really truly not doing it.
or you do it. So sometimes people can be another thing that people don't understand about purpose is depending on purpose is timing as well, right? So what your purpose to do right now and what your purpose to do 3 years from now may look slightly different. And if you don't move with the purpose or you don't shift when the Lord says shift,
Mm,
then you're trying to operate in a purpose that's no longer accurate for your life. And that's where the disgruntled, right? That, and then you find people
facts.
who are disgruntled because you stay too long in the same spot, right? And you haven't grown beyond because it may be your purpose started here but was supposed to grow to someplace else. But because you're familiar or you have your comfort here, you're not moving along as your purpose is moving on. And you're right. I think somebody in here said we most times we are the ones putting the cap on our purpose, right? With the limited thinking, which is what I love about even with Dr. Alley. That's one of the things that I always tell people um, is her ability to see beyond your no, right? Her ability to see your vulnerable spaces. Um, because a lot of times she's already been there, right? And so her ability to help you communicate even with yourself, right? I mean, I think I mean, this is I always tell Doc this every time. I don't care what she calls herself. To me, she's always going to be the communication guru. Okay, whether it's teaching you how to communicate with other people, how to communicate with yourself, how to communicate with your heavenly Father. She just has that natural innate gift that it just comes naturally for her. I mean, she could probably talk you through it in your sleep. And so
And do.
and so, you know, it's one of those things where you absolutely have to be able to talk yourself to operating into your purpose.
And I like that evolving part. So that evolving part is going to lead into our execution, which is our last aspect of what we're going to be doing on day 3 when we speak
Amen.
about conversions, enlightening, and execution. There comes a point when, for me, and this is what I like, when the disgruntled part happens, is usually because a shift needs to occur. It's usually growth needs to occur, evolution needs to happen, and you're stopping, hindering, fighting all the things, that growth process that's happening. Um, it usually requires some level of movement. It usually requires some level of activation.
Yep.
And one of the things why day 3 we're focusing on converting, and converting is not only for sales. Please understand that conversions, oh, these 3 days you think it's going to be for sales, but it's, if you know me, it's just disguised as sales summit. But it truly is a personal, spiritual, holistic transformation process that we're going to be doing in the 3 days to help you in the end with your business, which we need to have sales in order to have businesses, right? We need money to come in. So that is the direction we're heading into. But one of the things what I realized for me and for my clients is that a lot of us, past us, have a lot of dreams and desires in our heads. A lot of us get a lot of visions from God, from within ourselves, from when we were younger. A lot of us have ideas, like clear ideas. He's spoken to our ears. He's whispered into us. He's literally yelled at us what we should be doing, and that yet some of us keep it here and here and here and on the paper and in the planner, and they talk about it, and I'm going to be doing this and I'm batting it, and then when it comes to actually doing it, womp womp, drops the ball. And if we do it the first time, here's what happens too. Do it the first time and don't get the results that we want. Then we get big mad at God.
Yeah.
You told me to do this. Why isn't it successful? Where is all the riches that's supposed to come? Where are all the people that you said were going to come? Not understanding that this is a process. Somebody type out the word process. It's an evolutionary process that we have to go through. And part of the process is, it goes like this. It's a wave. It's not just I come in, I hear, I execute, I do. It's all the way up. It goes through a lot of that. And to me, that's my faith walk. That's when I know I'm in a space of, am I truly being obedient? Am I questioning? Am I listening right? Do I need to realign back? Am I still trusting him in the process? Or is this when I start to lose faith and lose trust in myself in the process? Preach.
Yeah, that's a whole message. And but the other piece of it is sometimes we have to realize that it's not us. Right.
Mm,
And that's what it hinders us a lot, is because we're depending on us to show up. Right.
mhm.
And we're not depending on the one who's given the idea, the one who's given the vision, the one that's going to provide the provision. We're expecting it to be in us. Right. And that's what hinders us a lot, because we already know that we're not really qualified. Right. We already know that we don't have the team, that we don't have the people. But we say we have the faith, but when it comes to putting the feet to motion or the hands to motion, it's that faith without works is dead. Again, you can believe that this is what you're supposed to do, but until you begin to apply, then you are not being obedient, right? Until you put the first dollar in, until you put the first post up to say, hey, I need you to come to this, or till you decide that you're going to go and ask the lady next door if you can teach her 2 kids, whatever it is that you feel like you called to do, then you haven't put anything forth saying, okay, I heard you, I believe you, and now I'm going to walk this thing out, even though I don't see the way, even though I don't see the end, even though I may not have the resources, even though I may not even know which direction we're going to go later. All I know is you told me to take these 2 steps, and I'm still sitting down thinking about, well, am I going to take the 2 steps?
Or do I take it tomorrow? Or if I take one step, is not step too big?
Do I need to take the lunch with me on the steps?
Wait, am I stopping or am I running? What pace is this step?
Can I stop at Macy's along the way so I can get a bag to go with my steps? I mean, literally, that's what we. And then we get in this cycle of asking all of these questions. Well, Lord, how long is it gonna take me? Well, how many people are gonna come? Or you know, just go and do it, right? Because He can't bless what we don't listen. Give Him something to bless. You can't bless what you don't do. If you
That
do
part.
nothing, I guarantee nothing is gonna happen. But if you do something, right? And then sometimes we also want it to be perfection right out the gate. We don't want no
Ooh.
problems. We don't want any issues. The first tech snag, we are out of there, right? The first time we go to a webinar and it's only one enrollee, it's over with. It's a wrap. I'm never doing that again, right?
Mm.
And so we have to understand that that's not how God works. Sometimes you need to process that thing. You need to go all the way through it. Maybe you need to write it out. Maybe you need to talk it out. Maybe you just never really know. Maybe it's in the process. I know when I as I was writing this book and I kept on saying, well, Lord, I don't really want to write, I mean, I'm absolutely, I don't consider myself a writer. It's just the way in which God is using me in a gift at this moment. But I kept saying, but it's simple. Like, why would you have me do this? And he said, so basically, it all, we went around the bush and all it circled back to this question was, so are you telling me, now this is the Lord asking me a question, are you telling me that if I asked you to write this book for one girl who lived on 7 Mile, that you would say no because it was only going to be for one person?
Mm.
And it was at that moment that my whole perspective changed. I don't care how many people show up in a room. I don't care how many people show up on the Zoom. I don't care whatever. If God say do it and I'm in there talking by myself, if I have to hit the Zoom and I'm just talking to me, then that's just what it's going to be. Because why?
You
Because it's the
understand?
reason why God is asking me to do it. I don't know what the reason is. I may never know what the reason is. But all I want to know is, all I want to hear is, okay, yes, you did what I asked you to do, even if I may never understand. And I think when we get to that point, then we can really see the fruit, right? We'll really see the fruit of the job well done, right? And why are we doing these things in the first place?
And a
Because
lot of
people
that,
need
like
that.
you said, is the self-healing, right?
Yeah,
When I wrote Amazing Gift, the book for autism, when I first came out initially, that was the most healing
really,
experience
absolutely.
that I had. Every time I spoke to a parent, every time I dive in, every time I went live, every time I would speak about something from the book, which is what you're going to experience. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Dawn's book that's coming out soon, was a healing experience for me. And I tell my clients, shout out to my executives, shout out to my academy masterminders. Thank you guys for coming in and always for your support. I tell them this all the time. Stop being so concerned about who's on the other side of the camera. Stop being concerned about who purchases the retreat. Stop being so concerned about who is the other side. Be concerned about you doing your part, and God will send who needs to be on the other side to receive what they
Absolutely.
need to have. And when there's no one on the other side, sometimes you are the person on the other side.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Mhm.
Because if you can't work on and in and with you, how could you even work with anyone else? If
Absolutely.
I can't speak to myself in a room that no one came to, I was just telling Dr. Joy, this one of my clients, about when I first started, and my coach at that time told me to have a master class every single week in person in my mama's basement. So I'm going there every day. I'm getting up there, going there, and whether people came or not, I'm still going to teach the class. My mama would get in, get dressed, walk through the front like if she's an attendee. Didn't matter, because that was my purpose, was to keep at it, keep in it, keep the skin in the game, walk in my purpose, know that I'm being obedient, stop being concerned about who is on the other side, and know that he will send the right ones and the right people at the right time
Yeah.
for what he has for them through you.
Absolutely. And the other thing that is, we have to stop saying yes and doing no.
Ooh, that's for somebody.
Okay. We say, yeah, I'm gonna do it. But then when it's time to put the effort in, when it's time to put the resources in, when it's time to show up for the hard things, when it's time to stay up late, when it's time to go to bed early, when it's time to, get off the phone, when it's time to find somebody to hold you accountable, when it's time to ask somebody to help you do something. Like I
When
hate
it's time
asking
to
for help.
invest some money that sometimes is scary for you to see the number.
Listen, I hate to ask people for help, right? And that comes out, and again, through this process, you learn The reason why I don't like to ask people for help, because in the past, when I've asked people for help, they haven't been able to show up in the way in which I felt that they needed to show up. Right. And so that was an area that I needed to heal from in order to get to the point where I now can be in the state of execution. Because you not only have to be able to ask people for help, but you have to ask the right people for help.
Facts.
Right. And so we sometimes ask who we want for the help that we want, for the reasons that we want. And we still are stuck in the same place. And until you get to the point where you ask the right person to help you, they're going to have to push you beyond where you want to go. They're going to have to be able to see you transparent and tell you, you're kind of sabotaging yourself. You're getting in your way. And you may have to have some tough conversations. But if your end goal is to execute, you definitely want to be around people who have executed, right? Not people who keep talking about executing, but people who are actually executing. And then don't waste the people's time who are actually executing talking about, I think I want to execute. No, when you get to the place where somebody has been placed in your circle that knows how to execute, now it's time for you to get on the stage and execute. Get off the box and execute. Get out of the room and execute. Get out of your house and execute. And people are not asking you, Dr. Allie and I are not telling you anything that we both haven't had to do, right? Now Dr. Allie says I don't like when she calls me minister. I prefer minister over pastor, but I had to still get out of my own comfort zone and do it, right? I had to move out of the way and I still minister, right? I mean, I still do those things, even though I may sometimes have discomfort with it. Why? Because I know that that is what I'm called to. And so I challenge everybody tonight. If you're in here, it's not by chance, it's not by accident, it's not by, oh, I just happened to be strolling on YouTube and this is what popped up. It's something that you are called to, that I think the words are obedience, purpose, and execute. Somebody need to be obedient to the purpose that God has given them and execute on the thing that you keep on laboring on, trying to wait till you get it to the good, to this all set and ready to go. Stop trying to add all your jazz on it. Stop trying to add all the poo poo pop pop bam and make it better than anybody else's that you've ever seen, and just do it. Do it. I remember when Matt used to say, version 1 is better than version none.
Amen.
Right? And I can tell you that because I'm on version 1 right now of what I'm doing, right? But you have to do it because you'll keep on going in this, hamster wheel. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And then the one I saw, this Instagram reel, it was phenomenal. It says, procrastination is the audacity to think that God will give you the time that He gave you to do it today, tomorrow.
Ha!
To that effect, right? So we have the audacity to think that God is going to give us the same time He gave us today to complete something. We'll have that same time tomorrow. And so we have to stop looking at life where we can do it tomorrow.
And for part of that reason, in the summit, I added on an extra 30 minutes. It's going to start from 7 to 8 with the speakers and for the information, but each person has an execute part. So they're going to speak, they're going to teach, they're going to share. Tomorrow's going to be all about pitching and getting more visible, taking your brand, getting clear on your offer. And then there's some activation on how you can become more visible and pitch and get your offer clearer. And then in the tail end, there's some time just to execute some stuff. Because one thing I've learned, and I've been in so many spaces, is that you're busy gathering information. We're busy building up the plan, busy doing all the things, but we're not executing to completion. So I add executing to completion into my coaching, into my programs, into my workshops every time, because I want to see you finish. I want to see you finish something. What are we going to complete when we start this process? And as your coach, your whatever I do at the time, because I do with execution also, helping people execute, is to have you complete something. But let's speak about, since you were just tapping into that space, getting out of God's way. And that's where we're going to leave everybody with. Speak about getting out of God's way. Why did you move into that space? What gave you that desire to write your book? And then invite the folks to what you have going, and just give them a little bit of behind the scenes of Minister Dawn Stevens.
Okay. Well, getting out of God's way is actually the process that God had to take me through, right? So he had to take me through getting out of his way in order to use me in the way that he authentically wanted to use me. Because again, I already told you that I tried to dress up a nonprofit as a ministry, right? Because it was more acceptable, right? Um, some of you all who are on the call may know me as, sometimes I flow in the gift of healing and deliverance. And so when those things show up, it can be scary for other people, right? It's not as easy as preaching, right? Or it's not as palatable as preaching. So some of the gifts that I'm called in, I consider myself a warring minister. So I'm not always given cute assignments. Sometimes I have to go into battle for people. And so it's not always fun. It's not always easy. I call it, I'm not really called to tutu ministry is what I normally call it. Is one where sometimes I have to go into some very deep, low places with people. Sometimes I have to try to help people get pulled out of despair and depression and confusion and addiction and all of those kinds of things. So it isn't, again, it's not always pretty. And so part of getting out of God's way was God taking me through areas in my life where I was in his way, right? I was in his way, not accepting fully who I was created to be, not accepting fully my call in totality, right? So yes, I can coach. I'm a coach. Yeah, I know how to coach. Yes, right. But I cannot hide my ministry, right? Or I cannot totally put that in a box and just do coaching, because that's not the totality of who I am, right? And so, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. So I have several businesses. So I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I can do all of those things well, but I can't do that and not ministry, right? Yes, I am, system strategist, logistics guru. Yep, I can do all of those things and have done them very successfully for some larger organizations and coaches. Um, but I can't do that and not do ministry, right? And so in this season of my life, it has to be a synergy, right? So yes, I'm some people I'm pastor, some people I'm minister, to some people I'm prayer intercessor, um, and to some people I'm, if you need that heat, call me up. Um, like my sister,
She
right?
bring it.
Certain people I just don't play about, and that's my oldest sister, Stephanie. If you know me, that's like my heartstring. Because of how she was there for me when I was a child. So if you want to get on the wrong side of the fence with me, that would be the right street to be on. But and then that's when I have to call on Pastor Ward, right? And it's like, you need to get me together. But so getting out of God's way is that journey. It's the journey of me writing the book that set me free, right? To help give people an invitation to set themselves free. But it's also the book that would catapult me into healing and deliverance ministries in the areas of retreats, right? And so when I showed up on a retreat campus, I was doing retreats. But even then, God's like, yeah, you're here at this retreat. They may not have a clue that you're here doing all of these spiritual things, because which they didn't in most retreats that I wound up attending. I just was flowing in my natural gift, right? And because I was raised in the healing and deliverance church, I understand what that looks like. And so when you may be seeing somebody have a breakdown for one reason, I may be seeing them have a breakdown for some totally different reason. And so this journey has been me accepting who I am in my totality, right? Not leaving out any gift that I have, not leaving out anything. It's me in my totality. This is who I am. This is what you get. And you have to accept all of it or take none of it. Right. And so that's just the season that I'm in my life. So that's the part of getting out of God's way. Is the same conversation that I had with God when he said, this is who I've created you to be in totality. And I need you to be all of these things when you show up to a place, because you can be used to help so many different people for so many different reasons. But you cannot do that void of ministry, because that is the core piece of who I am. Everything about me speaks to my relationship with Christ, right? How I serve my clients, how I work for my clients, and I work for some larger churches, the larger pastors, and how I, consult. like I definitely have a heart for God's people, in a way that's unique, right? And of course, I have to be a little bit harder because of the people that I minister to. Um, Sometimes
They
they,
say you get the hard cases.
well, I wouldn't even call them hard cases. Well, I guess I get people like
Like
me,
extra special,
right?
you
I get people like me, right? And people that understand me and people that get me. I grew up in a non-traditional household. So, I've seen everything, the gamut of everything. So I nothing shocks me. I don't judge people for what situations and circumstances that they are in. And so I sometimes I feel like that's why God calls me to certain things because hey, God is here to save us all. Nobody is higher or lower than anybody else. And so that's my
know.
journey about getting out of God's way. This for the next 20 or so days, I will be continuing on this journey of getting out of God's way online. So you can just hop over to gettingoutofgodsway.com if you want to hop in on that, or my Facebook. But yeah, we have some major things going on over here. I'm just gonna let God use me however He sees fit. And I try not to put titles on it because any day I can show up anyway. Like I said, some people know me in
Period.
different aspects. And so I am not capping God any longer in my life. And so however He wants to do it, I'm gonna let Him.
And I'm here
And
to support as always. We're here to support each other in both the
absolutely
same callings. Hence the reason why literally 2 days ago I was like, we need to jump on live. I have my synergy CEO synergies, and can we jump on and just share a little bit about our synergy within ourselves, our synergy
absolutely.
within our divine calling, and how we're blending it all together so that we can show up for who we're called for and still be
Absolutely.
super supportive for each other, because you do need people around you who can support you in obedience when you're not being obedient, to remind you of your purpose when you start acting like if you forget, and to
Mhm.
keep you in executing mode, because there's so many times we just want to pause and pause and pause for a very long time. And I would suggest you find a community, find a soldier, find a space that you can continuously get support in that space, so we don't do
Absolutely.
the giving up part. Dawn goes live at 10 p.m. Eastern every day, so I want to honor her time and try and close off so she could do her switch over. She's
Awesome.
also going to be joining us in the summit. Thursday is her day. She once again, that's my tag team sister, so she's gonna be tag teaming me in out for part of that summit day. But you guys we have incredible speakers. We have on the first day, Leah is going to be coming in. We have Coach Mayfield, Dr. Joy, all going to speak about creating creativity, being clear, and they're all divinely led. So everything is going to be in alignment with what you need. Day two, my homegirl Lori, she's coming in social media, coming in all things visibility. She is who I go to and I have, because she just geeks out on these things. Plus, she just turns people into bomb. Like they'll be starting off here and you turn back around and they're up in the ethers. So I want you to get her juiciness, and she's offered as one of my academy students to come in and share with you guys, as well with um, uh, Diagi, Coach Diagi, our health and wellness expert, and Delasper, one of our communications and family and children experts. She's going to be coming in and sharing her journey of connectivity. On day three, it's all about conversions, sharing all about enlightenment, on education, on and that's Narelle. Narelle's who I have as my sales trainer for my tribe. I only choose people who I know are spiritually aligned and also do things within authenticity. And I know you need. Like, you may think you don't need it, but just trust me on this one, right? Trust me on this one. You need it. It's gonna help you each one of the days. If you can't catch it live, the VIP package will give you access to the replay. Don't sleep on it. If God brought you here, then He's obviously positioning you for your next, right? So this is not by happenstance that you're here. So go to Synergy Sales Summit. Make sure you get your spot, guys. Pass this out. If it's not for you, and or if it's for you, please definitely share this so others can hear about it and we can get more folks aligned, because I don't know if I'm doing this again. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'm not doing it again. So grab it while you can, because I got,
Absolutely. And I'm pretty sure she's not doing it again as well. We've
yes,
had this conversation.
I'm, I'm not. I've evolved. I'm going into some other spaces. I've already spoke to people about that. So if you do need support in your business and sales, then this is the one, because this is truly for you. All the people I can call them on the phone and get the information from, right? But if I'm putting them together in one house for you, you got to know I don't roll with people who don't know and who don't have information. Look how powerful this information was already with bringing Dawn in. So you can imagine who else is going to be coming in. All right. So I love you guys. Have a blessed and amazing day. Synergy Sales Summit, gettingoutofgodsway.com. If you want to continue the conversation, Dawn dives deep into the Bible. She about to do some ministering. I got on my night clothes already, so I put her in one ear and I kind of lie down and she be, talking to me as I go to bed because she's my, she my connection because y'all know how I do with them scriptures. So she comes in and gets me back together. And I appreciate it. Thank you, Coach Lady. You are so appreciated. And I know Dawn is popping out. Definitely put your chat, put your, you know how we do as a tribe. Make sure you pour back into her. Let her know your takeaways. Let her know what you guys are grateful for her. Put it into the chat. Even though I close this off, you guys can still fill her cup back up. Later on, when she's finished, she'll come back in and she'll read it. You know how we do as a tribe. Whoever comes in, we make sure we fill their cup back up after they're poured into us. Love y'all. Have a blessed and amazing
Thank
week.
you. Peace out.
See you guys tomorrow.